Hi, good day. The topic is resource management in P6 and what are the basics concepts that we'll be learning today. What is resource loading? The resource loading is hours of work required for project completion divided by the available hours to perform the work. So what is the difference between resource loading and resource leveling? So there are three metrics: the work calculation based on expected from resources. So on the resource loading, we can look into the work calculation based on expectation from the resources. So that is on the resource loading. Right sizing resource allocation based on budget, adequate resource utilization, that is resource leveling. The project start and finish date, it is constant in case of resource loading. In case of resource leveling, we can adjust based on resource conflict. Creating resource chart. What are the different steps? Step 1. The project activity versus resource matrix. Second, hours allocation by resource on each task. Third, comparing hours with target utilization rate. Let us take an example wherein a team is working 50 hours a week in a project. So here the various attributes we can talk about is engineering, procurement, construction, commissioning. And Amit is working 40 hours, Rashmita 45, Ankit 50, Varsha 30. So herein we had it work week hours of 50 hours and the target utilization of 40 hours. So here we can see Rashmita and Ankit, it is greater than the target utilization of 40 hours and it goes to 45 and 50. So herein what we do is that we look into can we add in other resources and so that this 50 hours can be reduced to 40 and we can give 10 to Versa so that it becomes 40 for her. So this is how the utilization can be matched. So first what we do, we put down the resources and we put down what are the activities, and based on the activity we look into which are the resources which are overloaded, and then we look into how to allocate it to other resources. So resource loading importance to project. It is important because we can have realistic expectation, ensuring team is not overloaded, better team management, improvement in accuracy, in forecasting accuracy. So what are the percent completion type usage? So there are three types: duration, physical and unit. Duration percentage requires less input and is based on duration elapsed of a total at completion project. What is physical percentage? It is more accurate to duration as it provides actual physical progress of work achieved. What is unit percentage complete? It is best when multiple resources are working at different work rate. The remaining duration here should be computed based on team assessment or expected finish date or based on actual unit of the resource. Understanding duration type in Primavera. Three terms in Primavera P6 duration type. Duration, it gives the total number of working hours, working days for a respective activity. Units per time, hours per day for each resource on an activity. Units, total effort on an activity by all assigned resources. Understanding duration, units and time. Units and units per time. Suppose we have for an activity that is 20 days. So two resources are working on it, Amit and Rashmita. The budgeted hours is 200 and the budgeted unit per time is 10 hours per day. So this becomes the duration. Total budgeted unit for this activity is 200 and 200. It becomes 400. The units per time, it's the planned hours per day for the resource assignment. So the resources will be working 10 hours per day. So for duration type, fixed duration in unit, fixed duration in units per time, fixed units per time. So what is variable and what are fixed in this? When we have fixed duration and units, the variable unit is units and time, and the fixed is duration and unit. Similarly, when we talk about fixed duration and units per time, the variable is unit, and units per time and duration is fixed. When we talk about fixed unit, the variable is duration units per time and fixed is units. Similarly, fixed units and time, variable is duration units and the fixed is units per time. Important note, duration type during a resource assignment is fixed to duration and unit per time. After assignment of resources, the duration type for non-milestone activities is set to fixed duration in units. Then what happens is that our duration and units are fixed, and so that the total project time as well as the cost remains fixed, and then we can talk about on the hours per time. It helps to constrain time and cost, and we can then proceed to manage work with those limitations. 4 steps to resolve resource allocation. First, identify resources that are over-allocated, pinpoint a time frame for the over-allocation, determine the activities contributing to the over-allocation, resolve the over-allocation. Two main tools in P6 to manage resource usage profile, resource assignment window. What is resource usage profile? To view a resource cost and quantity data for a specific project. Resource usage profile can help with hours each resource is scheduled to work, identify overloaded resources, develop stacked histogram, develop progress curve. Resource assignment window. Resource cost and quantity information is displayed in a spreadsheet. Resource assignment window helps with to show resource usage over time, update spreadsheet fields, display planned, actual or remaining values. What is level of effort? A level of effort activity in Primavera is a special activity type with unique qualities for duration. Level of effort does not contribute directly to the deliverables or outcome of the project, but supports their progress. Loading BOQ cost and resources and expenses in a usually what happens in projects, in some of the projects, the planner create a single resource, assign it to all the activities, and then look into the plan versus actual. But it is not a proper way to add one resource and assign it to all the activities. The recommended way is to develop a resource pool with correct resources, type, units, and rate. Expense type should be used to load non-variable or fixed cost types. Ways to load cost. The first one is to create a global cost resource assigning to multiple activities, exporting budgeted cost column in a spreadsheet, populating budgeted cost column, and importing it back to P6. The second, creating multiple expense items, assigning them to respective activities, exporting expense column into spreadsheet, populating expense column with budgeted cost for each activity and importing back to P6. So this is one of the methods that I have used for most of my projects, and this is something that is working good for me, but everything has their own advantage and disadvantage, and let us talk about it. What are the different advantages and disadvantages for each system? Loading cost and resource advantage. Global cost resource can provide details of early cash flow and late cash flow. This helps management to understand the delay tolerance available in providing funding to a certain project at a certain point. So on the loading cost and resource, the advantage is that we'll be able to get the early start and the late start, and when we know the early start and late start, we'll be able to get what is the tolerance that is available, and based on that we can look into what is the float available for each and every activity and how to manage it. Ability to get resource curve for each resources. With selection of curves or customizing a new curve, cost can be spread throughout time. So here the customization of the curves is very much possible with a lot of curves available to us. Auto compute actuals can update activity in auto by giving actual dates and remaining duration. It has access to various types of cost which is not available when we add in the expenses. What are the disadvantages? Actuals in cost can be loaded only when activity has started. Assigning resources to a milestone is not possible. Loading cost in expense advantage. Expenses allowed to readjust actuals even after finishing of the activity. With expenses, we can have actual cost before commencement of an activity. In loading cost using expense item, there is no change in cost in case of changes in remaining duration. Milestone can also be assigned to cost. Expense auto compute is based on planned start and finish date. What are the disadvantages? Limited option to spread cost over activity. So we have only three things. One is at start, uniform, or at the end. Limited cost options, we have only budgeted cost, actual cost, remaining cost, and at completion cost. So I think as of now we understood what are the different um, things that we should take into consideration while resource loading a schedule, and what are the various types, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of the different types of cost loading, and how resource loading can be done, and the basics of resource loading. This cost loading is to be done either based on resource load or expense type based on project requirements and ease of usage. Every project is unique, and based on the project, the technique should be used. Thank you.